Okay, so in response to what, Brian said, the income gap that Elizabeth mentioned was referring to the gender pay gap between men and women, and not the gap between the middle class and the high class, the low class, and middle class. Bernie Sanders said it's wrong that women working full-time only earn 79 cents for every dollar a man earns. We have to move forward and pass the Paycheck Fairness Act into law. And the Paycheck Fairness Act is, it improves upon the EPA, which is the Equal Pay Act, which makes it illegal for women to be paid less than a man for the same work. So the Paycheck Fairness Act would improve remedies for pay discrimination and prohibit employer retaliation. And you mentioned the flat tax on income. And so basically, the last 30 years, there's been a shift in the redistribution of wealth. So the problem is that it's going to the wrong direction. The money has gone from the middle class and working families to the top 1%. And Sanders has said, I do believe we must end corporate loopholes such that major corporations year after year pay virtually zero in federal income tax. And this tax that he's talking about is, he wants to create a progressive estate tax on the top 0.3% of Americans that inherit more than $3.5 million. So it really doesn't affect as many people as he made it sound like. And also, Sanders has stated that he supports a 6.2% tax on investments income above $250,000. The opponent also mentioned support. He said that Sanders doesn't have as much support in the White House, and he mentioned Trump. Even though Sanders is behind Hillary Clinton in the primaries, he has a majority youth vote. So we just have to, the problem is motivating people to go out and actually vote. And he is higher than Trump in the polls right now. Funding-wise, Sanders is well known for rejecting PACs, or political action committees. And this is because he's opposed to big donors. He's managed to raise more than $96.3 million, and these are all from small investments consisting of less than $200 at a time. And this makes up 99.97% of his funding. And it's all from just people and not corporations. He's also mentioned college, and I have this quote from the Democratic Presidential Forum. Sanders said, it's time to make sure every kid in the country, regardless of income, can get a college tuition, which is why I'm vigorously fighting to make sure that all public colleges and universities are tuition-free regarding affirmative action. So, yes, it will cost the taxpayers, but again, it's not, it's the taxpayers that I mentioned before, the 0.3% that are inheriting over $3.5 million or more. And as far as minimum wage, he's made it very clear that he wants to increase minimum wage over the next several years. So it won't be all together in 1 year, but right now the full-time workers are living in poverty because the minimum wage is too low. So he wants to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, but again, it's over the course of several years. In the past, Senator Sanders has voted for the Minimum Wage Fairness Act in 2014, which raises the minimum wage to $10.10 after 2 years. Back to what Elizabeth mentioned, and she mentioned women's rights and control over their own bodies. As far as abortion goes, Sanders is very clear about where he stands. The decision about abortion is not up to the government. It's only between the woman and herself. And he's making it very obvious that he supports people making decisions that they think are best for them. And that's it.